we would like to continue now back to the theoretical part again, but that was very important for the business supports and coachings that we did in this project. My colleague Svea Horn from the Hanse-Parlament will now present the business transfer models that have been developed in the projects. Svea, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll do my best. I've never shared my screen, so bear with me. I think this is what I want to do. Can you all see my screen? Cool. Can you still see my screen in the presentation?
Yes.
Like as a presentation. Okay, thank you so much. Right, so my name is Svea. I also work for the Hanse-Parlament and the Baltic Sea Academy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the models for business transfers and also the different financing options and the financing models that we developed over the course of the project in the INBETS project. So generally speaking, there are several ways in which a generational shift can happen in a company. So during the INBETS project, we tried to find models and we created them, developed them, and then we translated them. And then we used them to consult owners and potential successors of companies. So we developed these models and then we tried to use them and apply them and have actually helped people already during the project. And for each of our models, you can find some illustrating examples on our website as well, just to kind of get another really good story. Not sure whether it's going to be as good as the one that we just heard, but another few examples to just kind of get a better feeling for the different models as well. As you can see, we have several models. So we've got 5 altogether. These are the first 3. So we have got models for like a family transfer, like we just heard about. We have models for when external entrepreneurs would want to take over, and also models where a company's executives or a management team would want to take over. We also have takeover models for workers' cooperative, which I'll also be talking about a little bit later on, and then also a model for when the company's taken over by another company. So we try and really to have a model for all kinds of SMEs to make sure that everyone has something for when the time comes when they need to transfer their business. I'm going to start talking a little bit about family transfers. So business transfer itself they're really, really complex, and they are even more difficult when the business is family run. So like I said, in the INBETS project, we try to get something for every type of business, but we want to make sure that we present this one especially, and also particularly after we just heard the story, I think it's really relevant to hear something a bit more about this model. A big part of the consultation process that we have with companies is that we find the best suitable transfer plan for business, and the family business transfer model is a really, really good example of this. So family-owned SMEs make up more than 70% of all European companies, which is quite an impressive number when you think about it. And they're obviously really diverse in kind of what type of enterprise they are, kind of the size. So we've anything from micro companies, which are up to 10 people, or medium-sized companies, which are up to 250 people. So it's quite a big variety. And obviously they work in all kinds of different sectors as well. The majority of SMEs are family-owned and family-run, and they account for 40 to 50% of all European employment. So that's why we wanted to focus specifically on family-run enterprises, again, just to make sure that we have something for them specifically, because they make up such a big part of European employment. Traditionally, a transfer within the family was a really straightforward thing, a very popular choice. But nowadays, young people are less inclined and less willing to take over their parents' business. So like Anders said, it's really, really important not to push your children or the younger generation and to talk things through. And it's mainly because they see how hard the parents work, and then also how little holiday they might get. They might want to do something completely different. They've got more options now. They might want something more secure. So it's very important to have these kind of conversations early on. Family businesses also lack expertise required to plan for or initiate a business transfer. So like I will just talk about this model very briefly in a bit, but there are things like technical components of a transfer, so things like taxes and financing or legal conditions and support, but also non-technical components. So that's things like communicating within the family, different expectations of different generations as well. And there will be shared values, but there will also be things where there might be a challenge or a struggle or an issue within the family. So it's really important to communicate and keep communicating throughout the process as well. So we've got a 6-step model, transfer model that we developed in the project. And I'm just going to go briefly through all the steps. If you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. So the first step would be aligning family goals. So like I said, it's all about communication, and it's really important that you start this as early in the process as possible. So this step especially is about understanding each generation's goal going into the business transfer and what their expectations are and these kind of things. So it's really important at the start. The second step is about evaluating the senior generation's liquidity needs, which just basically means what does the senior generation need after transfer? What kind of money do they need? What kind of income? Are there any care responsibilities? These kind of things need to be figured out at the start before you go into the business transfer and into the transition. The third step is analysing the company's finances. So you have a look at the business's historical financial performance. So you look at what did we spend in the past year, maybe the past 5 years, what can we spend now, what kind of struggles could come up, these kind of things. So you really need to look at this, then base your decision whether you want to continue this as a family, whether you want to maybe give up your business to someone else. You need to base your decision on that and all the other following decisions as well. The fourth step is about evaluating transfer methods. So here in this step, you talk about the different paths and options that you have as a family, which are available. So again, make sure that you communicate with each other, make sure everyone's on board on the same page. And then the next step, you can evaluate and analyze the tax structure. But this kind of the transfer method will dictate what tax structures and tax consequences will come up. No one really wants to talk about taxes, but it's really important when you're in the process of business transfer to also not forget about this part as well. And the last part is developing a buy-seller agreement. And this is really, really important, especially if it's not just one person taking over. So for example, if it's 2 siblings or cousins or maybe 2 siblings and a cousin. So if it's more than one person, it's especially important to have this buy-sell agreement because I always go back to it, you can negotiate it. And again, it's all about communicating and communicating throughout the whole process as well. So this is the family model that we developed for family business transfers. We also have a second one that I just wanted to talk about very briefly, which is for workers' cooperatives. So this one is when a group or a cooperative of employees comes together and they take over the business as a group. And this model or this kind of transfer option is much more popular in the southwest of Europe. So in countries like France, Spain, and Italy, people do this a lot more than up here in the Baltic Sea region. But that's why I wanted to mention it specifically, just to introduce a new kind of business transfer and to open our eyes to this kind of transfer option as well. So we have this option has both more advantages, but also a few disadvantages as well. So it is really good because you need to keep in mind that these employees have been probably working at the company for a while. So they will know the company really well. They will know the company much better than outsiders would. So someone coming in from the outside might not know the customer base, they might not know any business contacts, the marketing, they might not know the area really well. So it's a really big advantage to have someone from the inside who's worked at the company for a while for them to take over. They will also not require any on-job training because they know what's going on already. On the other hand, if employees take over together as a cooperative, they may need support setting up this cooperative. They may also need help in terms of financial support. They may not really know how to run the business, so they will need a lot of training in these kind of areas. But again, they will know the business well. So it is kind of like trying to figure out what fits best for your business specifically. So this is a 5-step model, so it's slightly shorter than the other one, but personally, I think it's like the different steps include more kind of actions. So the first step, when you want to do this kind of business transfer, to take over by a cooperative, is deciding to move forward. So very simple, and like you think it's very simple, but you like a lot of research goes into this, a lot of reading. You might have a workshop for workers who are looking to take over. You will have a lot of initial conversations. So again, it's all about communication and communicating with each other, and also maybe with the current owner. The second step is then getting ready. So like I said, there's a lot of training involved, and there's also something called business valuation, where you try to evaluate what's the price of the company, what are the finances, what is the current situation. So trainings would be things like financial training for employees, business and industry training, cooperative training, but then also the actual business valuation process, where the owner can then estimate a price, and then the employees can have a look at what are my financial options, what do we have to do we really want this, again communicating, and then reviewing and revising the current business plan as well. So it's all about kind of getting ready for the actual transfer and preparing it really well so that it actually works well when you go through it. The third step is defining structures. So in this step, you do things like documenting the current management plan. You might draft cooperative bylaws, and also really important, define the post-transition management. So it's all about setting up the structures, not just talking and doing financial stuff and training, but also setting up the structures so that the business transfer goes well, but also the business runs well afterwards. Because like we've learned earlier, a lot of businesses fail and just don't exist after a few years after transfer. So it's really important to ensure that these structures are already in the business. The fourth step is finalizing the transition. So this is the actual transition of the business ownership from the old owner to the cooperative, so the group of employees coming together. Before this happens, there will be things like negotiating the price, again talking about it. Everyone needs to improve the final price as well. So all parties involved, everyone in the cooperative, and also the current owner need to come together, and they all need to agree on the price. The employees might again seek more financing and more financial support. Then the transfer of governance would happen, and you would elect a new board, and the board is especially important if you're a cooperative because you are made up of more than one person taking over and more members, and then you would transfer the management as well. But this fourth step only happens after structure has been set, after training has been done. So a lot of preparation goes into this step. And then the fifth one is, I think, a really good one as well. So this is obviously following through the transfer, but also monitoring. Does it work? Are we all happy? Do we maybe need some more training for employees afterwards? So it's all about kind of making sure that everyone's still happy, communicating again. So now I briefly also want to talk about finance models. So like we've, I think, already heard, financing is really, really crucial part of a business transfer. So we have developed several finance models in the INBETS project. And it's both crucial for successors because they need to find financial support to buy the company, but it's also really important to get some sort of financial advising for the current owner, because they need to estimate the right price. It mustn't be too high, mustn't be too low, but they also need to get some value out of it, but also need to sell it. So it's really difficult to find the kind of right financial support, and it's really important that we help in businesses in this process. So as you can see, we develop quite a lot of different finance models. There are usually a company or an owner or a successor looks at these different options and doesn't just choose one option, but several ones, usually a combination of one or two of them. So they might get some co-financing from their parents or family members, but they might also go to the bank and get a loan. They might finance it themselves among employees. And there might be a silent partnership where there will be someone else owning the company, but they will not really have any say in what's happening, but will still be part of this whole process. For each model, we have also identified strengths and weaknesses, and you can find all of them on our website as well. So I'm not going to go into them specifically, but as you can see by just these two models, there are always some advantages, like not needing a partner, but also things like having someone who helps you with finances. Either they might want their money back afterwards or sooner than you expected, and your business might not be going well. And especially if it's a family member or friend, you might want to consider what a strain that could put on your relationship. So it's always kind of something that you need to evaluate, need to look at. Is there something that is worth it, or would you rather maybe go to a bank and get a loan, things like that. So it's really important to look at all of this together. Finally, it's really, really important to say that there's no single solution on how to transfer and finance a business transfer. Every SME is really unique. So you have unique struggles, you have unique challenges, but also very unique opportunities. So things like, it's not all about the problems, but also good things and new ways to run a business can come out of a business transfer. So it's really important for us to show that there are a lot of options that we also developed in the INBETS project. And we sort of try to create the necessary structures for a business transfer so that in the future, more businesses can transfer their ownership more successfully and have the support and the ecosystem that they need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Svea, for the presentation on business transfer models and financing models. It's very brief, but of course the information is much more extensive, the written information and the models. Do you have any questions to Svea about these models? I'll check the palette. Somebody on the palette says, where can I find the models for transfer? Are these free? Yes, these models are freely available on the website, and we'll be hearing about the website after the break, so to answer this shortly. But I see Katarzyna has a question. Yes, please.
Hello, it was a very interesting presentation. Thank you very much. Because for me, a new idea was this way of this model 4 to transfer the family business from the family to the cooperate of the employee. In Poland, we don't have this model. We don't see any company which can use it. So do you have any research how many companies are using this model in Europe? Because it's very interesting and new idea.
I know that they are mainly using it in Southern Europe, but I'm not entirely sure about the numbers. I'm not sure if maybe someone else who has done more research on this can answer that question.
Yes, we don't have any numbers, but exactly, it's in Italy and Spain. This is used quite a lot, the cooperativa, and they have a legal form for this also, but it's hardly unheard of in most new member states. Yeah, but it's an interesting idea. Okay, yes, Lucia Kaminski has also a question.
Yes, indeed, this concept of transferring a company of any type of ownership, not family business, but also another type of company to cooperative, to employees as a cooperative, is indeed not very popular in Central Eastern Europe for historical reasons. But in the current trend of social entrepreneurship and social enterprises, where cooperatives are seen as a type of a social enterprise as well, this trend is becoming more and more popular. And I think that is worth exploring it also in Central European countries. There was a project that we ran, I guess, in 2015-16, how to transfer a company to the employees. I can, after the conference, I will probably send you a link to this project. You will look at it. There are no research done because, you know, to do a research, you would need to run across Europe. You would need to really mobilize a contractor to do it. Otherwise, it's not very easy to find such type of information across Europe about the numbers. But there are data on countries like France, Italy, where this is happening more often. But as I said, I can send you some information and link to this project, so you will have a little bit of a better understanding of the topic. Thank you very much.
That would be great, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I will be happy to share then this information later on the website about this project. Okay, thank you all. If there are no questions at this moment, I think it's time to stretch and rest a little bit. So get some coffee and we take a break of 50 minutes. And then I look forward to hear about the website, the qualifications, political strategies, but most important, the breakout sessions where we'll ask you for your input. So see you all in 50 minutes. Thank you.